The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back to the UAB Director's Chair. My name is Tony Kurre, along with Mark Ingram, who's the UAB Athletic Director, joins me on the left-hand side of the screen on your YouTube channel. Of course, wherever you get your favorite podcasts, we're available on every major industry out there. There's not a podcast platform that we're not on TKR. And of course, you can hear the show at least 5 days a week right here on the TKR app. Also, a brand new show coming up here starting the first week of August. We do not have a title yet, but we will have one by next week. It's going to have Trent Dilfer. It's going to have Andy Kennedy. It's going to have Mark Ingram. It's going to have myself. It's going to be a great show about UAB sports and college sports in the round. So I'm really looking forward to it. And let me ask you this, because I've worked with both those guys lightly. I haven't had them both on my shows, and we've interviewed them over the years. Those two peas in a pod, they look like they could be trouble together. Yeah,
they're fun and big personalities, easy to, they're talkative, engaging. Yeah, you don't have to. It's not like you're ever going to get a one-word answer out of either one of them. Yeah. So even when you wish you could just get a one-word answer, you're not getting a one-word answer. Yeah, you know what, Tony? We got to come up with the name of the show. I want to call the show The Jeffersons.
Okay.
Because we're moving on up, man. I mean, it is uptown. You have put together this studio that is incredible. This thing, wait till our people see this. This is like, we know what we're doing all of a sudden.
No, it's going to be special. And the cool thing is you have a great following here on this show right now.
Yeah.
And we started this a couple years ago. I did this. Listen, I got a radio station here, the TKR app, and we're all over Fox 6 and ABC 3340. And I'm doing and I'm always looking for great content. And you've been a friend of mine for a long time. And I was like, let's do a show, about college football, about college sports in general. And I just love the fact that I get an athletic director on. I love having the coaches on. I think it's going to be great to get in the X's and O's. But I really like it. I always talk about pulling back the curtain a little bit and really learning a lot. And a lot happened this past week at the Ritz-Carlton resort along Florida's southwestern coast.
I'm glad we were being cost effective.
Yeah.
Right.
It did mention it. Yeah, it did. It's a good thing because the NCAA is hurting for money right now. So it's really good to see you guys setting up at a Motel 6.
Could we have gone to a Marriott, a Hampton Inn, go kill somebody? Come on.
Yeah. In the room, it was limited to 5 men. NCAA President Charlie Baker, commissioners from the SEC, ACC, Big 12, and Big 10. Not in the room, the other 28 Division I commissioners who milled about the first hour on the first floor of the resort, wondering where the whereabouts of the other 4 were. One said, I didn't even know there was a meeting going on. Another said, of course, whispered, they're cutting us out of it. Yeah. Minutes later, the 5 men came hustling down the main stairwell to begin what was the final chapter in 4 days of administrative meetings here. Baker appeared before all 32 commissioners for a robust discussion about the future of the NCAA's top division, as evident from their separate meeting. NCAA Division I has never been more fractured, fragile, and frustrated. The split between the haves and have-nots in college athletes is becoming more real than ever. In fact, it has already begun. All right, so you're in the AAC, formerly of the Conference USA. You have your own commissioner you deal with. What's your thoughts on what's going on here, and how does it feel to be an athletic director of just an absolute monster school in UAB, who's got everything that any athlete or any student athlete would want to play or get into? You obviously come from UAB, and the medical status of UAB is unbelievable. I think I heard you say the other day that UAB's ranked like 8th or 9th or something in medical.
I think it's the 8th largest hospital in the country.
Yeah. So you got a lot of firepower here, and I know that's not sports related, but it still is. How does that make you feel?
Well, we've talked about this a lot. I mean, this all began with autonomy legislation, call it, 10, 12 years ago. That was a invisible line drawn in the sand that the fan refers to the 5 conferences as the Power 5, and the other 5 conferences that we're in called the Group of 5. Mm-hmm. That invisible line started to change the finances, national advertisers, marketing executives. If you were going to align, if Tony, you were in charge of, sports marketing for Nabisco, are you going to align with this group of 5 conferences over here? Are you going to align with the Power 5? Man, you're going to align with the Power 5. So the TV money went up because the advertising money went up, and it was really off of. I'm not saying that they didn't have different value or bigger budgets already anyway, because they did, but that really started to change things, because it was as if the NCAA was endorsing this notion that if you're in one of these 5 leagues, you're better.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of schools, particularly at the time of that weren't better. And not only were they not better, like financially, they were nearly the same as a lot of the schools in the group of 5. That has changed because of their new TV deals, again, as a result of that designation. That's my view on it. So we've been slowly being sort of cut out of it. I'm also not a guy that thinks that the student athletes are victims. I just refuse to believe it. I don't appreciate the narrative that some lawmakers and some, former student athletes want to suggest that they're victims in some way. Look, we come to your house and we sit down with your family and we say, Tony, we want you to come to UAB or wherever we work. We want you to come here and play your sport. And we sit with whoever it is, your mom, your dad, if you're a 2-parent household, a grandparent, brothers, sisters, and here's how much money we want to offer you. We're going to offer you this much money in scholarship to come here. Would you consider coming to our school? And you choose to do that or you don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a better offer to go to a different school, you go there. If you decide that, you know what, that's not enough money for the amount of time I've got to spend to do it, nobody says you have to do it.
Yeah.
No one's saying you got to go to college to play golf, tennis, baseball, soccer, softball, football. Nobody says you have to do this. Remember, we just finished, we're kind of wrapping up camps nationwide. The month of June is heavy camp time. You go to our camp and there's 200 or 300 kids out there on the football field running around doing drills, and they are all there. These are one-day, basically prospect camps. We're not the only school that's doing this. Every school in the country is doing this. Mm-hmm. These kids are there praying that a coach will take notice of them, of the 300 kids out there, that a coach will go, I really like the way that guy moves. That Kurre kid, man, he's big. Look, he's a long-armed guy. I bet we could put 20 pounds on him. And, man, he moves well. And they're all praying for this to happen. They've taken time. Mom and dad have taken a day off of work to travel here, to pay the money, the fee to be in the camp. They're spending all kinds of money for private one-on-one training back at their home, and they're traveling to all these camps all over the country, praying for this opportunity. Then we go to their house and we give them that opportunity, and then all of a sudden they're a victim.
Yeah.
All of a sudden we've allowed this narrative that they're a victim. And so all that, to answer your question, comes back to this weird place that we found ourselves in. And so now they're separating even further to try to say, well, we're more elite. Man, that's been engineered.
Why would you be absent from this meeting? I mean, they could say, I know, but why aren't you? Why? I mean, they're making the decisions. We realize that there's total autonomy here, and you can stand up and scream all you want. You're not going to change what they're going to do. I'm talking about the top 5.
That's right.
So you have no say in this. And they could say that. Listen, you're welcome to come in, be quiet. You have nothing to say about this.
Right.
But at least you'd feel like you're included. You're going to be playing these teams. You're part of college football. There should be an inclusionary thing. So at least you guys feel like because you're much larger than those 5.
Yeah, we are in terms of numbers. And I heard Jim Phillips, the commissioner of the ACC, say something almost like that. He's like, look, the group of 5, we need them. We play them in game. We play them non-conference all the time. We're basically the breeding ground for who they hire in all areas, whether it's their next basketball coach or their next director of marketing. Like they are treating us like the minor leagues, and I don't love that. But his point is, why are we trying to cut them out of everything when we need them? We need them for a lot of things.
They need your money as much as you need theirs.
Yeah, they need us for games. They need us for talent. All those things, and it's a different world than when I was a student athlete. The ADs were clearly making decisions that were best for their conferences and for the sports at large, not just, well, what's better for my school? And now it's just what's better for my school. in conference discussions, if it's not good for my school, then I'm voting against it.
Is there anything in particular rules wise that the Big Four or the Big Five, depending on how you look at it, are there any things that they could take advantage of that you guys, outside obviously the amount of money that they can offer, but is there anything they can do that you guys can't, that they could vote on and say, listen, we're doing this even though the smaller guys can't? I don't know what that would be.
Since the beginning of autonomy legislation, most people don't know this, that group of what was the Power Five schools, the power conferences, they would have meetings and not include the rest of we used to have these Division I meetings, and then all of a sudden half of us that got cut out of the meetings. And so they would come out and say, there's new legislation that the autonomy schools, that's what it's called. The popular name is Power Five, but the Autonomy Five, they wanted the autonomy to make their own rules. The autonomy conferences have made these rules. Does Conference USA, do the American Sun Belt, do you wish to opt into this rule? You don't have to, but the autonomy conferences have made a decision. We're going to allow blank, unlimited meals and snacks. Okay. You don't have to do it. Autonomy legislation, when you have an official visit, it used to be that you could have an official visit and, you could bring 2 people with you, mom and dad. Now you can bring the whole entourage, auntie, uncle, cousin, brother, sister, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, they can all come with. So now, the autonomy league said this is okay, we're going to do that. Well, then what would happen is when we were in Conference USA, this was more prevalent. Somebody from in charge of compliance for the conference would say, hey, let's talk about the most recent autonomy legislation. Do we want to opt in or not? Tony, we wouldn't even discuss it. Yeah. We just got to a point where we're just like, well, if we don't do it, we're going to fall behind. And everybody's going, man, we can't afford to do that. But if we don't vote for it, they're just going to find a way to cut us out of the CFB. They're going to say we're different. So it's just so depressing and downtrodden. And it's not good for, like there's a democratic process that sort of the root of it is you and I can disagree on anything, but if we'll just talk about it, that's healthy.
Yeah, it just seems like
I agree with your point of view, but I should hear your point of view. That's inclusive.
Absolutely. Yeah, no one wants to be told what to do. And it just really feels like you're. But
it also suggests that their logo on their shirt makes them smarter.
Exactly, and it doesn't.
They're born into that league. So many of those schools are born into that league, and hey, man, they won't play us.
Yeah.
Try to get any of those schools to get the UAB Blazers. Try to get them to play us in Bartow Arena.
Now that he's Mark Ingram. You're right.
But they're better.
He's the UAB athletic director. This is called the UAB Director's Chair. We do it every single week. You can find it on your favorite podcast. Big show, a new show starting up in August with Andy Kennedy and Trent Dilfer. Both coaches will be joining the show on a weekly basis. Have you looked at what you're going to have to offer these student athletes as they come in? I mean, was it A&M or Washington State? Who was it that was offering every player like $20,000 the first year they came in? I forget what it was. Like every scholarship player got a $20,000 check.
That's through their collective. Yeah. If they can raise that money through their collective, good for them. FNU was doing that. They're paying like $3,000 or $4,000 per athlete.
Okay, so have you decided? And I know that obviously money
per month. Sorry, $3,000 or $4,000 per month.
Per month. Okay. Yeah. Obviously, you're looking in the bank and, okay, where we're going to get this money? And you got to raise money, and UAB will do that. You're big enough to do that. You're smart enough to do that. You'll make that happen. I don't know how much we're going to raise. You're not going to raise what Alabama and Michigan is going to raise, but you'll raise money to bring players in. Have you decided as an athletic director what that's going to look like? Have you written down a blueprint plan of, okay, first we're going to offer them every scholarship player is going to get X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
And then have you looked at that? And what is that? I mean, I know that's
we're talking about separate things. So collectives, which we can do now. And when I mentioned SMU, they're paying kids through their collective. That has nothing to do with the recent House settlement.
Yeah.
The House settlement is 2 parts. One is back pay for the last 8 years to student athletes in football, men's and women's basketball at the Power 4 leagues only.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's just ridiculous that it's only including those sports and only those schools. I mean, because it's based on they couldn't use their name, image, and likeness to profit. Well, neither could our kids. Yeah. I mean, Garrett Whitlock, who's a starting pitcher for the Boston Red Sox, played at UAB. He couldn't either. Why didn't he get paid?
Yep.
But anyway, so over the next 10 years, it'll take us, we will have to participate over the next 10 years in paying a back pay settlement.
Even though you're not getting any of that money.
Not only are we not getting it, our former student athletes are not getting it. It's only former student athletes of the last 8 years, men's and women's basketball and football from the Power Four conferences. That's it. So we, UAB, will have to pay into that settlement, and it's a six-figure number. It's a big number. Part two, as I understand it, and there's still a ton of detail to be worked out here, but as I understand it, if you're a school in the Power Four, you're going to be required to do this, which is pay 22% of your revenues from ticket sales, multimedia rights, which is with us, Learfield IMG, Blazer Sports Properties, and number three, your television contract, which comes through the league.
Wow.
Pay them 22% of that number. And if 22% were to exceed $20 million, then you cap it at $20 million. Now, who gets that money? Is it just those three sports, or does every athlete get a number? That's detailed.
And that's going to the NCAA to dole out for the student athletes.
As part of the House settlement.
Wow.
And that's just moving forward. They'll get 22% of our revenues in those three categories. Every year. And so, as I understand it,
that is a huge nut.
But the Power Four has to do it, and the rest of us can opt in or not. So the American has yet to vote as to whether or not we're going to do this or not.
Well, if you don't do it, what happens?
Well, the question becomes, if you don't do it, one, you're demonstrating a difference, which the Power Four are trying to point out very clearly anyway, that we're different. We're different, and see, we're different. And so we should be cut further out of the college football playoff. We're not one of them. So that's risk number one. Risk number two is that, believe it or not, we do beat schools in those leagues for student athletes today. But if we don't do it, does it make it harder to compete for recruits if we don't do it? And then so
you're saying by not including yourself in this, you're saying they perhaps would not play you? Is that what you're saying?
No, that you, the prospect, would not choose us. You're considering, UAB or Mississippi State. And Mississippi State is in the SEC, and they're required to pay this money to their athletes. UAB is not required, and so thus we said we're not going to do it because we can't afford it. Well, Mississippi State can't afford it either, but they've tried to figure out some way to do it. They've eliminated something somewhere to do this. You're considering here or there. You like our school better. You like the size of the city, but gee, that's a lot of money. Man, y'all aren't going to do anything. We didn't opt in, and then you go there.
Well, would there be any reason not to opt in? I mean, you don't have to offer them millions of dollars. It could be 10.
You can't afford it.
Yeah, but I mean, wouldn't you be better off to at least say we can do this, but we just can't afford to give you what you're asking? At least we can give you something, as opposed to giving you nothing at all.
Tony, but listen, you can't get blood out of a rock. So where are you going to go get the money from? I mean, we will have to stop doing something significant that we're currently doing. Again, coming back to this victim's narrative, there's never been a better time to be a student athlete than now. The amount of service that we provide, the care we provide, it's off the charts what these young people are getting. And I'm thrilled that we do it. It's great. I don't say that like I begrudge it. I'm glad that we've made such great progress. I'm just not glad that we do not take that into account. And so those sort of services are things that are going to have to go in. Right now, if you needed a tutor in any subject, we pay for it. Well, maybe we won't do that anymore. You say, well, how much money is that? Well, I don't know. It's not $100,000 a year, but it's more than $50,000 a year. Well, that's not going to pay 22%, a couple $1 million. No, but we got to start biting at that apple.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to start doing hey, well, right now we feed them after practice. In addition to giving football, men's, women's basketball, meal checks, we also feed them. Well, maybe we have to stop doing that. And I've heard the AD at Texas saying stuff like that. So, look, this is not just UAB.
Yeah.
Texas A&M, just their AD, Trev Alberts, just said, hey, we're going to have to, or Ohio State, we're going to have to talk about Ross Bjork at Ohio State. We're going to have to start talking about tiering our sports. Title IX says you can't do that. Well, but we're going to have to figure out some way to, again.
Yeah.
nobody feels sorry. Look, I've been beaten up on those. Probably sounds like I've been beaten up on these.
No, I mean, I get it.
Power four. But like I spoke at something in Knoxville a couple of weeks ago, this leadership forum thing, and I said, look, nobody wants to feel sorry for schools in the SEC because, they've got $200 million budget or whatever they got, but they plan out to spend that.
Mm-hmm.
So they based on a decision for their television contract some time ago that they were going to fix this. Their 100-year-old football stadium is falling apart, and they're going to go spend $150 million on trying to fix that. And they'll also widen the concourse and add bathrooms for fans and, improve fan amenities or a new club or whatever to make it better for the fan. And then all of a sudden they get hit with this, and they got to spend $20 million a year on the additional the players. And now all of a sudden they're 2 or 3 years into a 30-year note on this $150 million football stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't undo that. They did the work.
Yeah.
And so stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And it's just amazing.
It's the money, all of us. Whether you've got $20 million, $40 million, or $200 million, we spend it all.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to have to find it somewhere. Mark Ingram, the UAB athletic director, joins us every single week. We're grateful to have him. Of course, the UAB director's chair. You can hear it anywhere you get your podcast. You can watch it right here on our YouTube channel. Brand new show coming up in August, which is going to be fantastic. Really looking forward to that. EA Sports, speaking of money, are coming out with their college football thing. They're doing offenses, defenses, everything else. Of course, they rank these things. So they decided to go ahead and rank, because you play at home or away, the top 25 toughest places to play according to Xbox and EA Sports. I don't know where they got these numbers, but this is played into the lines and who's favored on what and how much more difficult it is. We know that normally home field advantage is somewhere between 3 and 7 points, depending on where you're playing. And so I've got the top 25 stadiums here. And I was wondering, you can name some, but you've been a player, you've been a coach, you've been an athletic director. Tell me, you personally, what are some of the most difficult places that you've ever played, where you've ever coached, you've been an athletic director at, and why?
I know I'm a homer here, but honestly, the loudest place that I was ever at, that I've ever been at, is Knoxville, Tennessee. I've never been in a stadium as loud as Neyland Stadium. They've shrunk that capacity a little bit. When I was there, it was 108,000. Now it's like just under 100, I think.
Number 13, by the way, Neyland Stadium.
Yeah,
is 13
I
on this
disagree with that.
Yeah.
The Swamp is loud. As a player, Arkansas is crazy loud. Texas A&M is loud. I've never played at Ohio State. I'm sure that's great. The Rose Bowl is not intimidating. Even though it's big, it's not intimidating. People probably say the Big House at Michigan is, because they're full. That's why the Rose Bowl is not intimidating, is it's real flat.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan is very similar design, but Michigan fills up. UCLA doesn't fill up the Rose Bowl. So I'm sure that's one of them. LSU, really loud, particularly at night.
Mm-hmm.
Night game at LSU, which they try to play almost exclusively, is really hard. Georgia, their fans are totally into it, really intimidating. I don't think Clemson. I don't know that, even though Clemson is really successful, I don't know that I would call that an intimidating place. Is that
it's number 12? It's right in front of Tennessee. I haven't gone to a couple games there. I will tell you that they do a hell of a job at getting the crowd fired up.
They do a great job. Listen, don't misunderstand. Pageantry there is awesome. Fans are awesome. It's like,
but is it a tough place to play? Yeah.
I'm just saying it's not from big as some of the.
Let me ask you this:
20,000 smaller than Tennessee. How could it be more intimidating?
You've been everywhere and done that. From just a pure advantage situation, whether it be the seating, whether it be the locker rooms, whether it be the way the sun sets on the away team's eyes, whatever. Are there any particular stadiums you could think of that really, like, people used to talk about, in high school, people used to hide manure and stuff underneath the guests, underneath their bleachers. So it'd be so uncomfortable to sit and watch a high school game. I know those things don't happen in college.
So Oklahoma has a really narrow sideline. So it's really tight. The row one to the sideline is there's not a lot of runoff space. So you're right up against the fans. And even if the fans are ultra polite, Sooner fans are great people, wonderful people in Oklahoma. But I mean, when they're just close to you, that makes it hard. Florida is that way. Their fans is a narrow runoff. Nebraska is really intimidating. And I think that I've never been to Wisconsin. I hear great things about their scene. And I would think that if you start getting into places like Wisconsin and Michigan, particularly that are big, they're good, fans are great, and show up.
Yep.
And then also consider the weather. That's got to be a factor. Like particularly late in the year, that's got to be an advantage. Like if we were to have to go play at Wisconsin in November, my gosh, our guys would think they went to Alaska.
All right, so let me give you the top 25. You've nailed a lot of them. 25, Davis Wade Stadium, Mississippi State. Albertson Stadium,
right?
Yep. Boise State, 24. Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium, 23. Spartan Stadium, Michigan State, 22. Notre Dame, 21, which I thought, wow, 21, they've fallen off a little bit.
It's okay.
Kinnick Stadium, University of Iowa, number 20.
I've never been.
Darrell K. Royal, Texas Memorial Stadium, Texas, number 19. Rice-Eccles Stadium, Utah, number 18.
I haven't been there. They do a really cool thing. Have you ever, I don't want to get too deep in this. You ever seen that thing they do for the number 22? They have these two football players that were best friends from Texas, and they both died within a year of each other. And they both wore number 22.
Oh,
well, the
cool.
second guy wore it to honor his friend, and then he died. And they do this thing between the third and fourth quarter. They do instead of a moment of silence, they do a moment of loudness.
Wow,
Have you
that's cool.
seen this?
No, that's cool.
Yes. And it was this whole thing like, we're going to cheer for those guys, and they're going to hear us up in heaven.
That's
like
cool.
We're going to be so loud. I mean, it is awesome. This moment of loudness, they do it between it is just, it's like incredible.
That's cool. 17 Lane Stadium, Virginia Tech. They've and I've seen some.
Okay,
they do a pregame thing that's super cool.
Yeah,
with
very
AC/DC.
good. Intro's great.
The Big House, number 16.
Yeah, I believe that again, Tony. That's the design of the stadium. There's no upper deck. It's a flat kind of bowl like this. So like you're pretty far away.
South Carolina 15. Auburn, number 14.
Yep.
And I think they've fallen off quite a bit because I think they want to say they were top 10.
Auburn's big. Auburn's pretty big. That all comes with success.
Neyland Stadium, number 13. Clemson, number 12. You meant that. Autzen Stadium, University of Oregon, number 11. They've come a long way.
It's a long way. And it's not that big. I mean, I'm sure it's a cool scene and all, but it's only like 55,000.
Here's your number 10. Number 10, the Swamp. Number 9, Doak, Florida State. Number 8, Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium, University of Oklahoma. You mentioned number 8. Number 7, Camp Randall, Wisconsin. May surprise some people. Beaver Stadium, number 6, Penn State.
Penn State, I've been. Now, listen, I'll give Penn State a lot of credit here, too. Their fans, particularly their students, are really locked in. There's just nothing. There's nothing in State College, PA, other than the school, and it's a huge school, and the stadium is also really big.
Yeah.
They have some really, really well coordinated stuff. You know what I mean? Like that the fans do. Yeah.
I'd like to see a game up there sometime. Been to Sanford Stadium. That's number 5. Ohio State. Georgia. Sanford Stadium is number 5. Ohio State number 4. LSU number 3. Bryant-Denny number 2. And you mentioned the number 1. Do you want to take another shot again? You already mentioned it once.
You say LSU yet?
Yeah, number 2.
Oh, what's number 1?
You want to take a shot? You mentioned him. A&M.
Oh, A&M.
Kyle
yeah,
Field.
The thing that the Aggies do too. So there's a big part of their stadium. I mean, some of the older fans sit down, but most of their fans do not sit down.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have cheerleaders. They have what they call yell captains or something. And they do like a pep rally every Friday night before a game. And you remember they used to do the big bonfire that they stopped doing because God bless, somebody died, and that was tragic and terrible. The whole thing collapsed and whatever. But they still, I think they still have the pep rally, and they teach you. It's also to teach you all these crazy hand signals that they do and stuff, and passing it back and all this, and so you learn what the cheers are. So people are like, they're watching the game, but they are locked in on these guys that look like they're these 1950s. They're in these one-piece zip-up, like they're a 1950s mechanic, these little jumpsuits.
Yeah.
And they're doing all these hand signals, and it tells people what cheer to do, and they're doing it.
Oh, that's cool.
They're standing up, and they're into it. And then they have this thing, no matter who they're playing, they play this song, The Eyes of Texas. The Eyes of Texas Are Upon You, which the University of Texas also does.
Mm-hmm.
But they have changed the words, and they do their arms like this. I mean, you see me here, and they lock arms, and they sway back and forth, and it's supposed to be like a bow saw sawing off the horns of the longhorn. And they do this, and like they're playing UAB, and they're by God, but we're sawing the dang horns off.
That's right.
Yeah, so they do some stuff that's really old traditional stuff that's really, and it's a big stadium too. Yeah, it's cool.
All right, cool. Kudos to you, Mark Ingram, the athletic director for the UAB Blazers. Go Blazers. UABsports.com, by the way, is their website for ticket information. Anything else you want to find out what's going on with athletics. You came up with the idea today. We always throw a little classic rock in here, and I know coming football season, we're too busy to do these things, but it's never too busy to talk about classic rock.
Never.
You mentioned something before we started the show today. My 12-year-old daughter, who just turned 12 in April, asked me if she could start driving. And I said, sure. Sure. I said, 12 years old, that's one of those things where I don't care how young you are. You can be 8. If you can reach the pedals, I don't think you can start early enough if you're in a parking lot. If you're in a parking lot with no poles, I don't think you can start early enough. 3-year-olds, I don't care. Get them behind the wheel of a car. It's only going to help you practice. So she did really well. She's 12 years old. Thank God, she's like 3 or 4 more years away from getting into the vehicle because Papa can't afford one. My son's got the nicest car in the family. But you just had a recent purchase, and that is getting us into our classic rock theme of the week. What you got, brother?
Well, you got 4 kids, man, and number 4 just got a car yesterday.
By the way, my son got his first ticket for tailgating from Hoover's Finest 2 nights ago. Congratulations. He's 20 years old, though, so I was like, that's pretty good. Your first ticket after 4 years of driving. I didn't come down too hard on him.
Well, it's, it's crazy expensive. And then it's also these milestone moments as a parent, right? Like when they become 16, it's kind of like graduating from high school and going off to college, graduating from college, getting married. It's just another sign of getting older. And
did you make her pay for her own car? Did she have to put some money up, or how'd that go? Did Papa take care of it?
My children and I have had a deal, and this is kind of the deal that my parents had with me. I was a very active kid in sports and things, and so I had a few little jobs here and there, but I didn't have like hey man, I'm working 4 hours a day every day, or 5 or 6 days a week. I didn't have time for that. And that's been kind of my deal with my kids. This particular one, she's a gymnast. She spends 20 to 24 hours a week in the gym on top of school. There's no time for a job. She'll pick up an occasional babysitting gig, but she's just really limited on her availability. So we say, look, you get great grades and you keep doing your activities and we'll figure out the rest. And
there you go. Good.
So that's the deal. And then, we work hard to try to get them to understand the value of the car and keeping it clean and that kind of thing.
Should have seen my kid's face when I told him he had to pay for that ticket himself. He's like, what? And I was like, dude, I'm dropping like over $500 a month in insurance and car premium and all the stuff for you. Right. And I said, and you just got a $300 ticket for tailgating. And that's something he always does. Every time he walks out of the house, I'm like, don't tailgate. And it's the one time I forgot to tell him. And sure enough, he's running late for work and it happened. All right. So you want to get into some classic rock cartoons. So our favorite cartoons. Dude, I love this because, man, I started going back and doing some research and I was like, a couple of them just popped right in my head, like Slow Ride, boom. But man, some of these are killer. I mean, there's some great ones. All right, so no top 4, top 5, whatever. These are all honorable mentions. Just give us some great car songs. Go.
Yeah, I just thought about it this morning when I said that to you. So I haven't done a lot of research. Low Rider.
Yep.
ZZ Top.
Got it.
That's a great.
Low Rider from War. Yep. Got that one.
Yeah. This is not a car song, but I was thinking about the band Montrose, Sammy Hagar's first band. They had that song Bad Motor Scooter.
Yeah, that's good. It's a great song.
I thought of that one.
No, that's good. Bad Motor Scooter works.
I Love My Car by Queen. That's like a B-side. That's pretty good. It wasn't overly popular. Pretty good song. But my favorite car song is Slick Black Cadillac by Quiet Riot.
Slick Black. Man, I haven't heard that song in so long. All right, first, before I tell you, what was your first car you drove, and then what was the first car you bought? Like, this is my car.
My first car, I inherited my mother's car, and she had what at the time was awesome, now I realize is the slowest version in the history. I had a Mustang.
Okay.
My mom had a convertible Mustang, a 1984 or 5 Mustang.
All right.
And I got that car. And boy, it was just so cool. I mean, I had a convertible. Now, if you go back and look at that body style, it's the worst Mustang in the history of
but
Mustang.
still convertible. That's
crazy
pretty
slow,
cool.
Slow as hell. It was like I was driving a Buick and the top came off.
Yeah.
You know, but at the time it was cool.
Yeah.
It was very cool. And then the first car that I bought, I think I bought my wife. We bought a minivan. That's what it was. We bought a minivan when we had kids. We both had cars that we had sort of like our childhood cars that we drove through college. And then she got a car she was in pharmaceuticals and it came with a car. And so we sold that car because she got a car to drive around to appointments. That's kind of, I don't know if that industry still works that way, but it did.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah.
And so anyway, and then when she stopped working, we bought a minivan. Yeah.
Nice. I drove an AMC Hornet that had the wood paneling down the sides.
One of my best friends his dad had a Hornet. It was green,
little wagon,
metallic green with the wagon on.
And let me tell you what, I was the crap because I had a car. I mean, but back in our days, if you had a car, you were it, man. I mean, I don't care what it was, as long as it had 4 wheels and you could drive. You were the king, man. It was fantastic. And then the first car I actually drove or bought. And I was 18. I'll never forget it. And I love this car and you just don't see them. But it was a 1986 Monte Carlo SS, a super sport, kind of a box car, had the fins on the back, had a 350 in it, was super fast, was black. I had a kick-ass stereo in it. It was unbelievable. I had woofers in the back of them. It's the first thing you do is you get a stereo for your car. And then I got T-boned by a doctor right downtown Birmingham, and just absolutely totaled it. And it was like, and it was in that, but I probably would have killed. Well, I say that because I hadn't killed myself yet, but man, that car was rocking. It was fun. It was
you
fun.
got any car songs?
Oh yeah.
Songs about cars.
Let's go a little Highway Star, Deep Purple.
Real strong.
Traffic Jam from James Taylor.
Okay.
Damn, Traffic Jam. What about the Tom Waits song and a song from On the Border, the Eagles' Old 55?
Ooh.
You remember that song?
You always go a little older. I like it.
You like that old 55? I got Low Rider on here, got Slow Ride on here. One of my favorite songs of all time. Midnight Headlight, Take You on a Rainy Night. Rabbit. Eddie Rabbit, Driving My Life Away. I love that song, man. That's one of my favorite songs.
I Can't Drive 55 by Sammy Hagar.
I Can't Drive 55 is definitely one of those things. I got The Who Going Mobile in here, which I think is a great song. And a song that, and I love this song. I wouldn't admit it anywhere else. Robbie Dupree, Hot Rod Hearts. Do you remember that song? Hot Rod Hearts. Yeah, Rockin' Down the Boulevard. Yeah, there you go. So that's some more car songs. All right, good stuff, man. I'll come up with something for next week. Okay. We got a few more weeks here before we start our big show coming up in August with UAB, so we're looking forward to that. In the meantime, UABsports.com. UABsports.com is the website. Mark, thank you so much, my friend. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, thanks, pal.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.